So season number 3 of My Team has officially wrapped up. In the background you can see the finale in Abu Dhabi. If you haven't seen it, link in the top right, go watch it. I've never ever seen a championship be decided the way it was in that race. Genuinely, I've not seen it in esports, real life, or any other content creator the way it happened to me. So link in the top right. Also down below I'll leave a link to season 3 in its entirety, because it was the best My Team season I've ever had since the game mode has existed. I'm talking way back in F1 2020, the best season I've ever had in my life. It was so much fun. There was so many moments, ups and downs, and it was genuinely historic. And I wanted to end on a high, but you guys really wanted one more season, and I'm inclined to give it to you. However, it's going to be on a reduced 16 race calendar for this absolute season finale, the last season of My Team, as I want to move on to something new. So here in the background you can see the final season results, and we're going to take a bit of time to dissect this and also kind of jump into spoilers. So again, hopefully you've clicked off by now. If not, then it is what it is. Sergio Perez won the championship in the very last race. We'll get into that in a moment. It was mostly a 7 to 8 car fight throughout the entire season. Genuinely, besides Hamilton, who never really got in the mix, from P1 down to P7, all of us at some point either won a race or were in the fight, and it only kind of fell away in the last 2 or 3 races. But genuinely, for the entire season, all 7 drivers had a shot at winning the title. In the Constructors, you can see we actually secured our first ever Constructors Championship for the first time since F1 2020, and we beat Ferrari and Red Bull. Now in detail, if we look at the proper view here, Sergio Perez won the championship. I bottled the last race, having an absolutely horrific finale. I thought I won the championship, crossing the line, and I was wrong. On countback, me and Checo were equal on points, so that means it goes down to whoever had more race wins. We also both tied 5 race wins apiece, so it goes down to most second places, and that is where Checo got the edge. He had 1 more second place than me, and that gave him the championship. So we lost it by the smallest of margins you will ever see. Now, for the most parts of the season, Nico Hulkenberg was leading the championship. Charles Leclerc also started out very strong in the first 5-6 races, and the championship was up and down the entire time. Anyway, with that said, here are the final stats from that season. You can see a pretty decent one, to be fair. Average P9, average P6 in terms of P9 qualifying, P6 race finish. 5 race wins, which is pretty decent. 12 podiums in a 22 race season, and 3 pole positions. So yeah, we're now gonna pick up where we left off and essentially move into updates and things that are happening during the off season. So here we are back in the office. We know that Fernando Alonso is retiring at the end of the season, so that could trigger some driver moves. And yeah, we're going to go through activities, upgrades, facilities, all that stuff. First of all, we took care of the activities. We pretty much filled up the entire chart with activities moving forward, and we're now going to move into the upgrades because we have to protect things. We have a regulation change on the way affecting powertrain and durability, so I went ahead and started to purchase all these upgrades. Now, what I didn't realize is that we haven't got enough points to cover everything. In the back of my mind, I genuinely was going to end it after season 3, so I wasn't really consciously making an effort to save up as many points as I possibly could have at the time. So we're slightly on the back foot. So then, I've done a good chunk of engine upgrades. I've left a few still to do because I want to also do a few durability upgrades, especially the control electronics and the energy store, which there's only 2 of those for the entire season, so I want to make sure I keep those for the new season. And yeah, you can see here we've actually run out of points without being able to protect the MGUH, the MGUK, the turbo, and that is not exactly ideal. However, there's still plenty of days left to gather a few more points before the season ends. I also went ahead and spent some of the cash which you guys were asking in the comments to do. So I went ahead and got fabrication level 3 on aero and also on the powertrain, which is one of the departments of course affected by the regulation change. After that, we had to move on to a department event for the personnel, and luckily this was actually quite a good one. Essentially, try to upgrade the kit and improve things a little bit in the department, and if we agreed to it, we take a small hit on the cash side, but we'd get 600 extra R&D points, which is massive. We went ahead and accepted it because it made total sense. And now, before moving to further upgrades, we have to deal with this situation, which is the contract negotiation with Hulkenberg. So, I think you guys will agree with me. Hulkenberg was the surprise package, I think, last season. I signed him because I had no other choice, because we had to restart the career mode, and genuinely ended up being the best teammate I think I've ever had in my team. So I'm more than happy to re-sign him for another year and have that level of competitiveness for another season. So, Nico, it's time. You're back, mate. Please sign the contract and let's run it back. There we go. Right. So we've locked it in. The partnership that won the Constructors' Championship is back for another season, so very happy about that. Here's confirmation of Alonso's retirement, as I mentioned before, which could trigger a knock-on effect in the driver market, which we'll get into because, my God, a bomb has gone off in the driver market. Elsewhere, a few days later, of course, we now have signed Hulkenberg. I know that the cash we have left we can actually use now, so I went ahead and purchased fabrication level 3 on the chassis, along with also improving the pit equipment so that our pit stops are faster and more efficient, and that's going to benefit us as a team. So now finally we're at the end of season point. You can see we've saved up a few more points, 2,250 R&D points, so I went ahead and we're going to spend the rest of those now and try to protect as many upgrades as possible. So we'll go for one more on engine power, so we've basically maintained most of that advantage, and we're also going to protect one of the MGUH, one of the MGUK, and also a level 1 of the turbo. So we're going to lose about 2 or 3 upgrades per department, I'd say, in the off season, which is not too bad, along with, of course, every single supplier upgrade that we got from Ferrari. So yeah, we might take a hit, who knows, but we're pretty strong in aero and chassis still, so that's going to help us out. Now here we are, the season has officially finished, and we gathered a much needed amount of acclaim, and because of that, it's going to level us up to level 20, which means we can now actually add on an extra 4th sponsor. So that brings us up to 5 sponsors altogether. We'll do that for the next episode, as I didn't cover it in this one. This episode, you'll notice, is a little bit bare bones. I haven't finished deliveries for the cars yet, because I'm trying to update everything to the new car models, because that kind of happened midway through last season. But yeah, anyway, cash payouts for the championship, I'm actually going to stick with everything. I'm very happy with Ferrari as a supplier. We only had one issue last season, a 1 DNF in Portimao in round 2. Other than that, it was a smooth season all the way through. I'm happy with the title sponsor, DSB Optics, decent cash flow, and also looks pretty nice on the car. And like I said, I'm happy to run it back with Hulkenberg as a teammate. So yeah, with that done, we have a bunch more cash to spend as well, which we'll get into in the next episode, and we'll see what we can do with it. But this is kind of the setup now for the new season. But first, let's jump into the calendar, because I mentioned before, it's a 16 race season. So here we are. The season begins in Imola. If I remember, I'm going to turn sprint races off, so there won't be a sprint race this season. If I forget to turn it off, Imola will be the one and only sprint race of this season. We have a European part of the calendar. Like last year, we're going to start off in Europe all the way down to round number 8. Then the second half of the season will be flyaways, so Canada, Miami and USA. The US stateside triple header, which I really like. Then Australia. China makes its debut in the series, round 13. Then we go to Japan, and then Saudi Arabia and Abu Dhabi. And just a few notable absentees: Bahrain, Austria as well, but Brazil, Mexico. Just certain races that I felt like didn't deliver the best race in last season's, championship battle. So I didn't really want to bring those back. And I think also trying to keep a fair balance in the calendar, but also having it make sense. I think we get decent racing at Imola. Spain was quite fun last season. Portugal as well. France. Monaco's there because I love Monaco personally. Belgium, Italy, you're going to get lots of action. Baku as well, which is also, I believe, one that I wouldn't usually pick, but we had such a good race there last season, I had to bring it back. Miami, USA were good fun as well. Australia was a tough race. And then China's an unknown, which I really like, especially towards the latter end of the season. And then Japan, Jeddah, and Abu Dhabi to close it out. So hopefully you guys like the calendar. But now we're going to move into the main event. And hold on to your hats, because we are going to jump into driver transfers. And I think you're going to be shocked. Esteban Ocon has left Alpine and has gone to Alfa Romeo Racing. Zhou Guanyu is alongside him in that new driver lineup. AlphaTauri have kept things the same with Pierre Gasly and Yuki Tsunoda. And then we get to the first huge bombshell of the off-season. Alpine have blown up their roster. Ocon, of course, has left Alfa Romeo. Fernando Alonso has retired. So Max Verstappen and Robert Schwartzman step in for the French outfit. Verstappen, of course, had to see Checo lift the crown last year, and I don't think he liked that, and he has left the team and felt like Red Bull weren't backing him. You know, he wasn't in favour, and he is going to try a different challenge. So a massive bombshell in the off-season. Aston Martin, of course, Sebastian Vettel, as you can see, has been replaced by Valtteri Bottas, who is alongside Lance Stroll. Very unique lineup. Keen to see how Bottas fares versus Stroll. Then we have a bit of a calm period. Charles Leclerc, Carlos Sainz back at Ferrari, no updates on that side. They'll be looking to try and fight a bit stronger this year. Leclerc, of course, started out so strong last season, fought all the way to the end, but didn't quite make it for the championship. Magnussen, Schumacher back for Haas yet again. We then have Ricciardo and Norris from McLaren also back in orange, so no big surprises there. And we now move on to Mercedes. George Russell, Lewis Hamilton still at the helm, and they're going to keep things the same. They definitely had moments last season where they were strong. They just kind of lacked in a few crucial areas, and Hamilton also underperformed a little bit for what I think Mercedes would have liked. But now we move into the biggest bombshell of the off-season. Sergio Perez, the world champion, stays at Red Bull, and he has company in the form of Sebastian Vettel. Seb, back at Red Bull, has left Aston Martin, and oh my goodness me, what a lineup this is. This has potential to be insane. I'm really excited about this, and I'm also scared at the same time. I genuinely don't know what to expect. But either way, Red Bull have gone all in, and they're looking to go back to back and claim that Constructors' Championship, which they missed out on last season. Finally, Williams, Alex Albon and Nicholas Latifi back again. No changes there. Albon was a standout, had some really strong races, actually raced in the top 8 many a time, especially in the second half of the season. So Williams will be looking to build on that this season. But guys, that is it. We have an insane season in store for season 4. We're going to keep Michelin as a tyre supplier. I felt like that really added a different element last season. I felt like, we had some really fun races. And not just that, like I mentioned before, I don't currently have my livery or the other cars finalized. There's not going to be a massive change to the other teams. It's mostly just updating it to the new car models, which released in patch 1.15. But we do have a change. I'm working on something. Hopefully it's ready in a couple of days' time for round 1. That's my aim. I'm working on it right now as you're watching this video. And yeah, hopefully you're looking forward to it. But guys, that is it. Season 4 is upon us, and I'm very excited. Leave a like if you're excited. Subscribe for more, guys, and especially subscribe and notifications on for when that round 1 video drops in a couple of days' time. It will either be in 48 or 72 hours, depending on if I get the mods done in time. But bear that in mind. So even more reason to have notifications on in case you miss it. And yeah, as always, guys, check out the 2 videos on screen. A big shout out to the members. And yeah, that is it from me here today, guys. And I'll see all of you in round 1 in Imola.